His basketball. I have his daughter there. Get to meet him. He's been like a big brother figure for me, and to finally meet him in person, it was a great moment.
The Indiana Fever's latest loss to the Los Angeles Sparks stung deeply, not simply because of the final score, but because it once again exposed the four foundational weaknesses that have plagued this team all season: missed layups, missed free throws, soft interior defense, and a lack of dominance on the glass. These persistent issues are more than statistical shortcomings. They're symbolic of a team still struggling to find its identity amid flashes of excellence and frequent collapses. If you want to contend for a championship in the WNBA, it's not just about having stars or scoring highlights. It's about execution, physicality, focus, and being able to close games, especially when you've already built a lead. The Fever were up by 10 points early in the fourth quarter, but the very flaws that have haunted them returned in waves. Second chance points allowed due to poor rebounding, wasted opportunities in transition because of botched layups, and defenders either arriving too late to help or swiping recklessly for steals instead of holding firm position. Take the play where Lexi Hall gets caught on a screen and Rakia Jackson barrels down the lane unimpeded because Aaliyah Boston fails to rotate in time. By the time help comes, it's symbolic, not impactful. A desperate gesture rather than a calculated stop. Boston's late and ineffective help is emblematic of what's wrong defensively for Indiana in the paint, where miscommunication and poor anticipation frequently undo their strong perimeter pressure. This swiping for steals tendency, while aggressive, often substitutes real defensive positioning and results in a cascade of easy buckets for opponents. It's coaching, yes, but also mental discipline, and the Fever appear to lack both on the defensive end when the play breaks down inside. Yet, even amid these systemic failures, there were clear positives. Kelsey Mitchell was sensational, finally snapping out of her shooting slump with 20 points on 44% from beyond the arc. It was her third consecutive game with over 20 points, and her resurgence couldn't have come at a better time with Caitlin Clark sidelined by a groin injury. Mitchell's rhythm was the metronome for the Fever's offense, and her ability to stop on a dime and knock down a silky three-pointer in transition is a thing of beauty. Her mechanics are as smooth as anyone's in the league. And while her missed layups in the paint remain a concern, the bigger story is that she's confidently asserting herself again, and that confidence bleeds into every corner of the offense. Aria McDonald, a recent addition to this Fever squad, brought intensity, hustle, and disruptive energy, finishing with 14 points and multiple steals. She's a tremendous upgrade from what DeWanna Bonner was contributing previously, not because Bonner isn't talented, but because McDonald plays like every possession matters. She got deflections, she got into the passing lanes, she converted threes, and she attacked the basket fearlessly, even if she missed some critical free throws. She gave Indiana something they desperately needed: bench production with teeth. And she did it while Caitlin Clark was on the bench, which will allow the Fever to manage minutes more wisely when Clark returns. McDonald, paired with Mitchell and Clark in small ball lineups, could give this team an explosive backcourt capable of creating mismatches on the offensive end. Though defensively it's a risk. But hey, Indiana already ran a similar lineup last year with Erica Wheeler, so it's within the realm of tactical possibility. And let's talk about the defense on the perimeter, because unlike the interior, the perimeter defenders were locked in. Lexi Hull, Aria McDonald, Sophie Cunningham, and even Aaliyah Boston were swiping everything in sight. Boston finished with 5 steals, a testament to her awareness and effort even if her offensive night was a struggle. Cunningham had multiple steals and hit shots in transition off of them. When the Fever were getting stops and running the floor, they looked like a playoff-caliber team, connected, explosive, and hard to guard. One sequence saw Cunningham get the steal, push in transition, hit the wing, receive the ball back, and splash a three. That's the Fever at their best, creating chaos, running off of it, and finishing strong. The problem is they don't sustain that tempo. The Fever start fast and then inexplicably slow down, which allows opponents to set their defense and plug the paint. Whether it's conditioning, bad coaching, a lack of leadership, or all of the above, this deceleration is killing Indiana's momentum in too many games. You can almost see the shift, where the urgency dissolves and the offense becomes static. The Fever need to treat fast-paced play not as a situational tactic, but as an identity. When they run, they score. When they walk it up, they stall out. And unfortunately, they often stall out after building a lead. The third quarter in this game was a win because they ran in transition and played through Mitchell's hot hand. But even in the third, they left points on the board by botching easy layups. Another tragic through line for this team. Kelsey Mitchell had beautiful footwork and positioning down low only to miss uncontested shots. And she wasn't alone. Aaliyah Boston, Natasha Howard, Lexi Hull, every one of them had wide open attempts at the rim that didn't fall. These misses are not isolated, they're cumulative. If you add up the blown layups and missed free throws across their past for losses, the Fever would have flipped the outcomes of at least 3 of them. The margins are that small, and their mistakes are that avoidable. It's not about missing tough fadeaways under pressure. It's about failing to convert when no one's contesting you. And when that happens repeatedly, it stops being a skill issue and becomes psychological. Players start expecting the whistle to bail them out instead of finishing through contact. And with the kind of whistle Indiana gets from officials, especially Clark, they need to abandon that hope and just finish the play. Caitlin Clark's absence in this game was keenly felt, not just for her shooting, but for the spacing and playmaking she provides. Without her, Boston was swarmed every time she touched the ball in the paint. Defenders didn't have to worry about a skip pass to a shooter who could punish them. Instead, they collapsed, and Boston turned the ball over or missed tough shots. She went 4 for 13 in the game, not because she regressed, but because the floor shrunk without Clark's gravity. People fixate on Clark's shot selection and misses, but what they miss is how much easier she makes the game for everyone else. Boston feasts when Clark is on the floor because defenders can't leave Clark alone, and Clark is an elite passer, finding her front court partner with precision. That synergy is what elevated Boston last season, and this year before Clark's injury. Without it, the offense sputters. Yet, even with those offensive constraints, Mitchell was able to get loose and carry the scoring load. Her deep step-back threes were demoralizing to the Sparks defense. She looked confident, dynamic, and in control, the clear alpha scorer on the floor. And if Clark comes back healthy and Mitchell stays in this form, the Fever backcourt suddenly becomes one of the most dangerous in the league. That's the path forward for Indiana. Clean up the small things, reintroduce Clark, keep Mitchell aggressive, and reinforce that fast pace as their foundation. Because even with all the flaws, interior defense, missed layups, mental lapses, this team is not far from being a consistent winner. They've been in close games, built double-digit leads, and played elite stretches of basketball. The frustrating part is they haven't figured out how to stretch those moments into complete games. If they can get 40 combined points consistently from Clark and Mitchell, and even average rebounding and free throw performance, they can be a legitimate playoff threat. But it starts with the little things, because no team can win when they shoot themselves in the foot on the most fundamental plays. The Fever have talent, they have energy, and they have moments of brilliance. Now they need consistency, better discipline, and some emotional maturity to stay composed in fourth quarters. They're close, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Until they learn to close, they'll keep letting wins slip away. And that's what separates a playoff team from a championship one.
And platforms like this, arenas like this, there was a great turnout, a great environment. It just makes you excited as an individual and as a team to continue to keep representing Dallas.
The Indiana Fever's tough loss against the Los Angeles Sparks wasn't just another mark in the L column. It was a vivid, frustrating re-exposure of all the recurring issues that continue to haunt this team and will ultimately define their playoff ceiling unless aggressively addressed. Yes, the Fever will make the playoffs. There's no real question about that, given the current structure and competitiveness of the WNBA, where over half the league qualifies. But what happens when they get there is a different story. Making it in is no longer the bar. Going deep matters, and if they want to have any legitimate chance of progressing beyond the first round, they'll need to dramatically improve their interior defense, rebounding, and composure under pressure. Up 10 points in the fourth quarter against a Sparks team that entered the game with a 4-11 record. The Fever had every opportunity to close this out, and they let it slip in the worst way. Not because they were outmatched in talent, but because they were soft in the paint, careless with the fundamentals, and unable to finish plays on both ends. Natasha Howard was a glaring liability defensively in the interior, allowing Azra Stevens to go off for 23 points, most of which came from high-percentage looks inside. Time and again, Stevens either blew right past Howard or simply powered through her, exposing just how frail Indiana's post presence is without proper resistance. Howard's reach, footwork, and awareness all failed to show up in key moments, and her foul trouble didn't help either. And it wasn't just Howard. Even Aaliyah Boston, for all her defensive instincts and elite steal numbers, couldn't contest Stevens' length when it mattered. On several sequences, Boston either gave up the space or got outmaneuvered, and while this might not be the worst defense she's played all season, it was still far from what a team chasing a playoff run should tolerate. These defensive lapses in the paint have become predictable, and opposing teams know exactly how to exploit them. It's a trend now, not a coincidence. No matter who Indiana faces, the scouting report remains the same: attack the basket, get downhill, force contact, and expect an easy two or a trip to the line. In this game, that formula was executed to perfection by LA, who consistently won the rebounding battles and converted second-chance opportunities into backbreaking points. In one heartbreaking sequence, the Fever actually got the initial stop, only to allow Dearica Hamby to grab the rebound, convert the N1, and repeat the entire play seconds later when she missed the free throw and collected her own board. This 5-point swing late in the game was the dagger, not just because of the points, but because of what it symbolized: Indiana's complete lack of interior physicality when it mattered most. You can play good perimeter defense, you can force stops, but if you can't grab the rebound or defend without fouling, all amounts to nothing. And to make matters worse, the officiating in crunch time was suspect, particularly the phantom foul call against the Fever that led to 2 crucial free throws for Kelsey Plum. That whistle changed the entire complexion of the game. It was 75-75 with under 2 minutes left, and that call put LA up 2 and shifted momentum fully in their favor. Fans on the